one thing you might be wondering is, where does this magical word ellipse and mouse X and mouse Y and create canvas come from? Well, again, this is installed when we install P5. So if I go back to the P5 website, I can actually go to the reference page and see everything that it gives us. So there's a ton of stuff in here that we can actually find. So in here, there's things like color. We can add ellipses in here. Where is it? Around here somewhere. There it is, up there. So there's all these different things that we can actually add into our project. Now, if I keep scrolling down the page and seeing what there is, you might notice that there's a bit all about typography. And what we can do in here is actually add text to the page. So if I click text, what can we see? Well, in here, what I can say is text, then the word, then where it will be on the page. So at 10 and 30. Now, we can also put in mouse X and mouse Y based on where it currently is. So we're actually going to change the ellipse to a word and move it around the page. So how do we do that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of ellipse for now. And instead, I'm going to use this thing that P5 gives us. It adds 3 things in here. So it adds a string, basically what is the text, an X and a Y across and down the page. So I'm going to add text, and then in brackets, I'm just going to write in quotes, because it's a text, it doesn't change right now, super high. Now I'm writing super high because I don't want it to be 0, 1 just yet, in case we get confused about, is it a number, is it some text? This is text. So in here, I'm going to set this to a certain place, which is 30 by 30. So what we should see on the page is in our canvas, we're going to draw some text at 30 by 30 each time. So let's see. So there we go. We have super high, and it's in Arial because that's the default on the page at the moment. But I could move this around by changing 30 and 30 to mouse X and mouse Y. So mouse, capital X, and then mouse, capital Y. So what I'll get now is if I go back to the page, I can almost like draw super high on this page. So I've got my mouse moving around. Doesn't look too great, but we have something in here that's quite fun. Now you might notice at the moment that the font and the typography isn't there. It's using the defaults. Maybe the color needs to change as well. But how do we actually kind of draw even more stuff on this? How do we stop this drawing and freezing in time as well? Well, if I wanted to draw just one thing at once, all I need to do is just redraw the background each time. So in here, before I draw any new text, I'm just going to reset the page by adding a background in. Now, what color is the background? Well, the color of the background is the same I want as this background color here. So I'm going to take this from here in my script. I need to put this in quotes. So the reason for putting it in quotes is hash ECF072 doesn't make sense. It's not a JavaScript concept. It doesn't know what to do with it. So we need to put it in quotes so that P5 can handle it, basically. So what we should see now is if we go around the page, we have this little super high thing following us around. We can't get rid of it. It looks pretty cool. But at the moment, it's in the wrong place. It's in the wrong position. How do we start starting this up? Well, what we have to do is go back to text. So what do we need to put inside here? We have things like text size that we can put in here. We have a fill, for instance, if you want to change the color of this. That's what we're going to do next. So notice this needs to be before we actually draw this text. So before we draw the text, we need to add some stuff. I'm going to add some stuff in here. First thing I'm going to do is change the text size. So notice they say text size, and if I go back to the documents in my kind of typography area, which is further down on the page, we can change all of these things. I want to change the text size. So click here, and this is just a number. It's in pixels. So font size is measured in pixels. I'm going to do text size, and in brackets, how big do we want this? Well, I want this to be actually pretty big. I'm going to say 400. Very big. So now what I should see is super high, kind of going off the page here, but we have something in here that's pretty large. How do we change the color of this? Well, if we go back to this, again, this is not really kind of helpful. I might need to go to the reference. How do I actually kind of change the color? Maybe it's something to do with this, setting the color. Maybe it's to do with fill. So we'll fill it in a certain color, maybe hexadecimal. Here we go. It's kind of what we want. So again, just before I draw this text, I'm going to add in, maybe I'll do this kind of above this. We're going to fill it in this red color. Now, what is the red color? Again, it's in my project in my content.txt, I have a red color in here. So I'm going to take that from here and put it in. So we have a red color. So now what we should see is a red color, very large, and the text is in a certain place. Would help if I put the right one in here, so I'll just quickly change that. So now what we should see is this red super high start to appear. So obviously we could make that a little bit small if we want to, but I kind of want to place it in the right place in the kind of end point. So where do I want to put it in the right place? Well, I want to put this in the middle. So if I go back to the reference guide, I can start to look through some of this stuff. So I have like environment, how wide is this canvas? So I can use width and height. I could just basically work it out and say it's half of this and half of that. So half of that is 250 and 250. But if it does change width and I want to change it later on, I'm actually just going to do width divided by 2 and the height divided by 2 as well. So what this will do is it'll put this in the middle, but it's not put this text in the middle because it's not aligned in the middle. So I'm just going to quickly go down. Where is it? In typography. Oh, where is it gone? Typography. And I've got my alignment and leading. So my alignment I want to put in the middle and the center and the center. So I'm going to use text align center center in capitals. It's a special word in Javas in P5. I'm going to align this in the center, comma, center. Now watch the span of center if you're British or Australian, it's with an ER in there. So what we should see now is just P, the super high part of this. Now of course what we want to do is change that to 0, 1. So I'm just going to change this text to 0, 1. And what we should get now is just 0, 1 always being in the right place.